The alien princess trembled when her soulmate light sparked after she touched a human guard. Princess Lysera moved quietly along the high corridors of the Zitharan palace. The walls shimmered with a soft, living light that pulsed in time with the energy flowing through the city. She had always admired the palace from a distance as a child, seeing it as a world of perfection and order. But now, as the heir to the throne, she felt the walls pressing around her, confining her to a life dictated by duty and tradition. Every step she took echoed lightly against the polished floors, a reminder of the silent weight she carried. Today was different. The council had ordered a review of the palace's security forces, and Princess Lysera was to attend, though she felt no excitement in her usual formal walks. Her mind wandered to the idea of exploring what lay beyond the walls, beyond the familiar towers and bridges, where the wind and the air were not filtered by crystal lenses or energy shields. For years, she had dreamed of freedom, yet she had always known that freedom might come at a cost she was not yet willing to pay. As she approached the central hall where the guards were gathered, she could see them standing in perfect formation. Each guard wore armor that seemed to catch the light and bend it around them, giving them an almost ethereal glow. At the front of the formation stood Captain Kieran, a human who had been assigned as a liaison to Zithara's security. Unlike the Zitharans, humans were fragile in appearance, with soft features and no visible energy signature, yet he carried himself with calm confidence. His eyes, deep and steady, seemed to measure the world with both curiosity and caution. Lysera paused at the doorway, studying him for a moment longer than she intended. She had heard stories of humans and their unpredictable nature. Many Zitharans considered them inferior, weak, and incapable of understanding the complexities of energy manipulation that defined their society. Yet Kieran moved among the Zitharan guards with ease and respect, observing them without judgment, correcting minor errors without arrogance. It was a balance of strength and humility that fascinated her. "Princess Lysera," Kieran said, bowing slightly. His voice was steady, with a tone of quiet respect that carried no hint of fear. "It is an honor to have you here for the inspection." Lysera nodded, her usual composure in place. "The honor is mine, Captain. I wish to see your forces in their best form today." Her voice was soft, but firm, carrying the authority expected of a future queen. The guards moved through their routines, demonstrating agility, precision, and the control of energy fields around them. Lysera's eyes followed every movement, noting where energy pulses faltered or where timing could be improved. She had been trained to do this since childhood, yet today her attention kept returning to Kieran. Every time he adjusted a guard's stance or corrected a movement, there was a subtle grace in his motions that seemed to reflect understanding rather than mere observation. At the end of the demonstration, Lysera was to perform the ceremonial greeting. It was a formality for the princess to acknowledge the captain and the guards, a gentle touch that symbolized respect and connection. She stepped forward, extending her hand toward Kieran. He met it with a light touch, his palm firm yet gentle. The moment their skin met, a spark of light flickered from her chest. It was small at first, like a gentle pulse, but it startled her so much that she instinctively drew back her hand. She had heard of soulmates, beings whose energy aligned in perfect harmony, causing a visible spark when they touched. Many Zitharans spent their lives searching for such a connection. Yet she had never imagined that it could happen with a human, a species she had been taught to regard as curious but limited. The glow faded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving her heart racing and her mind in turmoil. She could feel a warmth in her chest, an unfamiliar and insistent pull that both frightened and intrigued her. Kieran's expression did not change, though she noticed a flicker of curiosity in his eyes, as if he had sensed the spark but did not fully understand it. Lysera turned sharply and walked away, forcing herself to maintain the composure expected of a princess. Her steps were quick, purposeful, yet inside. Her thoughts whirled like the energy streams above the city. She questioned what she had felt, what it meant, and whether she should ignore it. Humans were not supposed to have such connections with Zitharans. It was unheard of, impossible even according to tradition. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Her own energy had reacted the moment she touched him. Kieran watched her retreat, unsure of what had just occurred. He had felt something, a subtle resonance that ran through his chest at the moment of contact. It was strange and new, unlike anything he had ever experienced. He glanced at the other guards, who seemed unaware of the incident, and decided it was best not to question it openly. For now, he would observe, waiting to see if the princess's actions had further meaning. That evening, Lysra could not sleep. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling where energy patterns from the city's flowing streams cast soft shadows across the walls. Her mind replayed the moment of the spark over and over. The thought of Kieran, a human, being the cause of such a reaction was both thrilling and terrifying. She knew the council would never approve, and yet the spark had felt real, undeniable, and personal. Determined to understand what had happened, Lysra rose from her bed the next morning before dawn. She made her way to the palace's private observatory, where she could watch the city wake without being seen. The early light illuminated the towers, the floating gardens, and the streams of energy that connected the palace to the surrounding city. Somewhere among those streams, Kieran walked, unaware of the turmoil he had stirred within the princess. Lysra had a plan. She would observe him in secret, study his actions, and try to understand the nature of the spark. She knew it would be dangerous to admit such curiosity openly, as the council would see it as a breach of protocol, perhaps even treasonous if interpreted as favoritism toward a human. Yet she could not ignore it. The spark had ignited something in her, a mixture of wonder and recognition that she could not explain. Over the next several days, Lysra found subtle ways to be near Kieran without attracting attention. She would walk along corridors he frequented, linger near the training grounds, and find moments where their paths would cross naturally. Each encounter caused her chest to tighten with anticipation, and though she tried to maintain her regal composure, she could not deny the growing fascination she felt. Kieran, for his part, began to notice her presence more often. He found himself drawn to her curiosity and intelligence, intrigued by the way she observed the guards, the strategies she suggested, and the small gestures that revealed her genuine interest in their work. He respected her immensely, though he had no idea that the spark of energy between them had already begun to form a connection that went beyond observation or duty. One afternoon, while adjusting a training device for the guards, Lysra accidentally brushed her hand against Kieran's arm. This time the spark flared more brightly, visible as a soft glow around her chest. It startled both of them. Lysra's eyes widened in shock, and Kieran froze, sensing an energy resonance unlike anything he had ever experienced. The guards around them noticed the glow and murmured among themselves, but no one spoke directly to the princess. The energy was unusual, and some speculated that it was a sign of a bond, a phenomenon that had never been recorded between a human and a Zitharan. Lysra felt a mix of fear and awe. The spark had confirmed what she had suspected. There was a connection, and it was undeniable. After the incident, Lysra retreated to her chambers, her mind racing. She could not ignore the spark, nor could she dismiss the possibility that Kieran was somehow meant to be more than a human guard. The idea frightened her, not only because it broke tradition, but because it introduced an uncertainty she had never faced. Her life had been planned, her path defined, and now a single touch had altered everything she believed about destiny, duty, and connection. Kieran returned to his quarters, equally unsettled. He had sensed the resonance, a subtle pull toward the princess, and though he could not understand its origin, he felt an unexplainable urge to protect and learn more about her. He resolved to continue his duties with care, but he also decided to pay attention to these unusual interactions, knowing that they could hold significance beyond what he currently understood. That evening, Lysra stood on the balcony of her chambers, looking out over the glowing city. The streams of energy flowed beneath her, connecting the palace to the world beyond. She felt a shiver run down her spine, the echo of the spark still present in her chest. It was a quiet, persistent reminder that something had changed, something that could not be undone or ignored. The princess whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the hum of the city. "What is this? What have I felt?" She did not know if the answer lay in tradition, science, or something entirely new, but she knew one thing clearly. Her life, and perhaps the fate of Zithra itself, had shifted the moment she touched the human guard. As the stars began to emerge in the night sky, Lysra felt both fear and hope intertwining within her. She realized that the spark was only the beginning, a small signal of a connection that had the potential to grow, to challenge old beliefs, and to shape a future no one had imagined. And somewhere, perhaps unknowingly, Kieran felt the same pull, the same sense that something extraordinary was unfolding, a story that neither human nor Zitharan had yet lived, but one that was about to begin. The palace was silent around her, but inside, Lysera's heart raced with anticipation. The spark had awakened a curiosity she could not deny, a courage she had not yet acknowledged, and a sense of destiny that would not be ignored. She turned away from the balcony, knowing that tomorrow she would face the day differently. She would watch, she would learn, and she would discover the truth of the spark that had started with a simple touch, a spark that could change everything she had ever known. The morning sun rose over Zithra, painting the towers and floating gardens with a soft gold glow. Princess Lysera awoke with a restless energy she could not ignore. The spark that had ignited when she first touched Kieran lingered in her chest, faint but persistent, as though calling her toward something she could not yet name. She dressed quickly in a simple ceremonial robe, her mind racing with thoughts of the human guard. Kieran was already at the training grounds, overseeing the guards as they practiced their routines. The energy streams of the city reflected off his uniform in a subtle shimmer, giving him a calm, almost otherworldly presence among the glowing Zitharan warriors. Lysera's eyes followed him carefully, noticing how he moved with precision, correcting errors with patience and encouragement. Every gesture seemed effortless, yet she could see the thought and care behind each action. She approached quietly, remaining hidden behind a pillar as she watched. Her curiosity was growing stronger by the hour. The spark she had felt during their last accidental touch had opened something within her, a sense of awareness and connection that she could not ignore. She wondered if the same feeling stirred within Kieran, though she could not know for certain. Kieran glanced over at the observation tower where he thought the princess might be. He had sensed her presence before, a subtle shift in the air that humans could not usually detect, but today it was stronger, almost like a quiet resonance. He could not explain it, yet a part of him felt drawn toward her, a silent recognition that something unusual was happening. The morning drills concluded without incident, but Lysera's attention remained focused on Kieran. She noticed small details that others might miss. The way he adjusted a guard's stance with a gentle touch, the way he encouraged those struggling without losing patience, and the calm confidence he radiated in the face of errors or uncertainty. He was not the strongest Zitharan, nor did he possess the natural energy abilities of their people, yet there was a strength in him that fascinated her. After the drills, Lysera found herself wandering closer to Kieran, pretending to inspect the guards. She reached for a holographic map to demonstrate an adjustment in the training formation. As she touched Kieran's arm to indicate a point on the map, the spark returned, brighter this time. It pulsed along her chest and sent a shiver through her entire body. She looked at him, her eyes wide with surprise and wonder. Kieran froze as well, feeling the resonance in his own chest. The glow was faint but undeniable, like a soft pulse that connected them across the space between them. Neither spoke at first, both uncertain how to respond to the sudden surge of energy. Around them, the guards glanced in quiet confusion, unsure of what had caused the subtle glow that now lingered around the princess's chest. Lysera stepped back, heart racing. She had read about soulmate connections in the archives, but she had never believed she would experience one, especially not with a human. The council had long forbidden interactions that might lead to such a bond, warning that humans were unpredictable and weak compared to Zitharans. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The spark had responded to Kieran, and it had done so with intensity. Kieran lowered his hand slowly, maintaining his composure. "Princess," he said carefully, I don't know what this is, but I think it might be important." His voice was steady, but there was a note of curiosity, of shared wonder that Lysera had not expected. She nodded, struggling to regain her usual calm demeanor. "Yes, it is important. I need to understand it." She did not explain further, knowing that even mentioning the word soulmate would create a scandal within the palace. Over the next several days, Lysera found herself observing Kieran more frequently. She studied his routines, the way he interacted with the guards, and even the moments when he walked alone through the gardens. The spark responded each time she approached him, sometimes subtly, sometimes with a visible glow that made her pause in awe. She began to realize that the energy connection was not just a curiosity. It was a bridge, a way for them to sense each other, to share awareness that others could not see. Kieran, too, noticed the changes. He felt the pull toward Lysera growing stronger, though he had no name for it. It was as if her presence heightened his awareness, sharpened his reflexes, and gave him a quiet confidence that he had not possessed before. He began to anticipate her movements during drills, and he found that he could respond faster and more accurately when she was near. Something about her energy inspired him, a subtle guidance that he could not fully explain. One evening, after the sun had set and the city glowed with its natural luminescence, Lysera found herself alone in the observation tower. She watched the streams of energy connecting the palace to the city, reflecting in colors she could hardly name. It was beautiful, and yet her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of Kieran. She reached out instinctively, placing her hand on the edge of the balcony, wishing she could understand the spark, the pull, and the connection she felt. Kieran appeared in the courtyard below, unaware of her gaze. She studied him for a long moment, noticing the way he moved among the guards, giving instructions and quietly encouraging those who struggled. She felt the spark respond once again, a gentle pulsing that ran from her chest to her fingertips. It was almost like a heartbeat that belonged to both of them. Suddenly, a call came from the palace gates. A group of outer patrols had reported unusual energy readings near the floating canyons outside the city. Kieran was ordered to investigate, and Lysera felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to follow him. She could not explain why, only that the spark seemed to guide her, urging her to be near him, to understand what they shared. Dressing quickly in a practical robe, she slipped out of the palace unnoticed and made her way toward the patrols. The air was cooler outside, carrying a scent of energy and ozone that made her senses tingle. She moved quietly, careful to remain hidden, yet she could sense Kieran ahead, calm and alert, unaware that the princess was shadowing his steps. As they approached the floating canyons, the energy readings intensified. Strange currents of power swirled around the cliffs, making the air shimmer. Kieran signaled the guards to hold position while he investigated a nearby energy fluctuation. Lysera, unable to restrain herself, moved closer. As she stepped onto a ledge beside him, their hands brushed accidentally. The spark erupted like never before, a radiant glow that lit up the canyon walls. Kieran's eyes widened, and he instinctively moved to steady her. The resonance surged, sending a wave of awareness through both of them. They could feel each other's focus, each other's presence, and even a sense of shared emotion. For the first time, they understood that this connection was real, powerful, and not limited by species or tradition. A sudden roar echoed through the canyons. Strange, semi-transparent energy creatures emerged from the currents, their forms shifting and flickering. The guards raised their weapons, but the creatures moved faster than expected, surrounding them with sharp, pulsing energy. Lysera's heart raced, but the spark within her chest flared again as she instinctively touched Kieran's arm. The energy surged, flowing between them, enhancing Kieran's reflexes and awareness. He moved with uncanny speed, dodging attacks and guiding the guards to safety. Lysera felt the bond strengthen, her own energy amplifying his, creating a protective aura that repelled the creatures. It was breathtaking, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. When the last creature dissipated into the currents, the glow around Lysera's chest faded slowly. Both she and Kieran were breathing heavily, the adrenaline of the encounter leaving them both shaken. They looked at each other, understanding dawning in their eyes. The spark was not a simple phenomenon. It was a connection, a partnership, and perhaps something that could change their lives forever. "Princess," Kieran said quietly, his voice steady despite the tension, "I think this is more than a coincidence. I don't know what it is, but I know it matters." Lysera nodded, her fingers brushing against her chest where the spark had originated. "Yes, it matters more than I imagined. And I think it could mean something for both of us, for the palace, and perhaps even for Zithro itself." They returned to the palace silently, each lost in thought. The incident at the canyons had confirmed what Lysera had suspected all along. The spark was a bond, a connection that defied rules, tradition, and expectation. It was also a source of strength, something that could protect them and guide them through dangers yet unknown. That night, Lysera lay awake again, staring at the ceiling where faint energy patterns shimmered. She thought about Kieran, the spark, and the future that suddenly seemed uncertain and full of possibility. She realized that she had two choices: ignore the bond and follow tradition, or embrace it and face the unknown with courage. The thought of embracing it filled her with both fear and excitement, a strange duality she could not resolve. Somewhere in the palace, Kieran was awake as well, his mind replaying the events of the day. The connection he felt with Lysera was undeniable, and though he had no understanding of the zither and mysticism surrounding soulmates, he sensed that they had just experienced something extraordinary. He resolved to remain close, to observe and support, and to trust that whatever this spark was, it would reveal its purpose in time. The night passed slowly, filled with anticipation and quiet reflection. Lysera and Kieran were both aware that their bond had changed everything, even if the world around them did not yet see it. The spark was not merely a flicker of light. It was a signal, a guide, and a promise of things to come. As the first rays of morning touched the towers of Zithera, Lysera rose with renewed determination. The spark was no longer just a secret or a mystery. It was a call to action, a connection that could shape her life, the lives of those around her, and the very destiny of her planet. She dressed with care, knowing that the day ahead would test her in ways she could not yet predict, and that the bond with Kieran was only the beginning of a journey that neither of them would forget. The days that followed the canyon incident were filled with a quiet tension. Princess Lysera moved through the palace with her usual grace, but beneath her composed exterior, her thoughts were consumed by Kieran and the spark that had connected them. She could feel it now even without direct touch, a subtle vibration within her chest that seemed to hum in rhythm with his presence. It was disconcerting and thrilling all at once. Kieran, for his part, continued his duties with calm efficiency. Yet he found himself glancing at Lysera more often than he realized, noticing the slight way her hair caught the light, the careful precision of her gestures, and the calm determination in her eyes. Though he had no experience with the concept of soulmates, he sensed a connection that went beyond mere observation or duty. Every time their eyes met, a spark of understanding seemed to pass between them, subtle but undeniable. Lysera decided she could no longer simply observe. She needed answers. Late one evening, she visited the palace's Temple of Ancestral Lights, a serene and sacred place where Zitheran mystics studied the nature of energy, bonds, and destiny. The temple floated on a platform above the city, connected by streams of light that shimmered with 1,000 colors. She entered quietly, bowing to the elder mystics who sat in meditation. "Princess Lysera," said Elder Zorath, a tall figure with silver-tipped energy flowing from his hands, "what brings you to the temple at this hour?" "I seek understanding," Lysera replied. "Something has awakened within me, a spark, a connection to a human guard. I do not know what it means, but I cannot ignore it." The elder's eyes softened. "The bond you speak of is ancient. It is rare for a Zitheran to find their soulmate, and rarer still for a human to be part of it. Such a connection can amplify strength, courage, and awareness. It can also be a guide in times of danger, yet it is unpredictable and the council will not understand it easily." Lysera knelt, absorbing every word. "I want to understand. I want to know if it can be controlled, if it can be used, and if it can survive the judgment of the council." Elder Zorath studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Then you must learn through experience. Touch alone is not enough. Shared trials, shared awareness, and trust are the paths to understanding. If the spark responds to him, it may also respond in moments of danger or need. You will learn its purpose only by walking it, not by reading of it." Lysera left the temple with a sense of resolve. The spark was not a curiosity to be feared, it was a force to be understood. She would need Kieran by her side, but how could she involve him without alarming the council or endangering him? The thought weighed on her, but the answer came with clarity. She would find a way. The next morning, an urgent message arrived. Strange energy fluctuations had been detected near the outer borders of the city, in a region known for its unstable currents. Kieran was ordered to lead a patrol to investigate. Lysera felt a familiar pull in her chest, a warning and a call at once. She decided to accompany the patrol, disguising her presence as part of the official observation team. The journey to the borders was tense. Floating canyons stretched endlessly, their edges sharp and glimmering with natural energy. The patrol moved cautiously, their sensors detecting faint disturbances in the energy streams. Lysera stayed close to Kieran, careful to remain unnoticed, yet feeling the spark respond to his presence, sending waves of warmth and awareness through her chest. Suddenly, the air shifted. A burst of unstable energy shot across the canyon, striking the patrol's formation. Guards were thrown off balance, their weapons flickering as the energy interfered with their controls. Kieran acted instantly, his mind sharp and focused. He moved to stabilize the formation, guiding the guards with precision that surprised even the veterans among them. Lysera felt the spark flare as she instinctively touched his arm. The energy surged between them, enhancing Kieran's reflexes and coordination. It was a moment of perfect synchronicity. The princess's energy amplified the human's awareness, and together they moved as one. The patrol regained stability, and Lysera realized that this was exactly what Elder Zorath had described. Shared trials revealed the nature of the bond. As the patrol advanced, they encountered a cluster of energy creatures, similar to those seen in the canyon before. Their forms were shifting and translucent, with sharp tendrils of energy that could disrupt machinery and injure guards. The creatures advanced quickly, and panic rippled through the formation. Lysera reached for Kieran instinctively. The spark flared brightly, and Kieran's movements became almost superhuman. He dodged attacks, guided the guards with pinpoint accuracy, and created space for the group to regroup. Lysera felt a thrill of power she had never known. The spark allowed her to sense danger, to anticipate movement, and even to lend small bursts of energy to Kieran, though she had no understanding of how it worked. They fought together, moving as one, and for the first time she realized the true potential of their connection. When the last creature dissipated, the patrol took a moment to recover. Guards whispered among themselves, amazed by the precision and coordination of Kieran's leadership, though none understood that the princess had aided him in ways invisible to the naked eye. Lysera's chest still pulsed with the residual spark, a reminder that their bond had grown stronger in moments of crisis. Back at the palace, news of the patrol's success reached the council. Some were impressed by Kieran's abilities, while others questioned the unusual circumstances. Rumors began to circulate about the princess's presence during the patrol and the faint glow some guards had witnessed around her. Lysera knew that if the council investigated too deeply, they might uncover the spark and misunderstand its significance. That evening, Lysera sought out Kieran in private. They met in a quiet courtyard, far from the watchful eyes of the palace. The glow of the city's energy streams reflected off their faces, soft and warm. "Kieran," Lysera began, her voice low, "I need to ask you something. Can you trust me?" He looked at her steadily. "Princess, I have served you and this palace for a long time. I trust you with my life." Lysera nodded, feeling the spark respond to his words. "Then I must tell you the truth. When I touch you, when our energies connect, something happens. It is not mere coincidence. It is a bond, a spark that has awakened between us. I do not fully understand it, but I believe it is important." Kieran's eyes widened slightly, but he remained composed. "I have felt it too," he admitted. "I did not understand it at first, but I sense it when you are near. It feels like awareness, like I can anticipate danger, and perhaps even sense your thoughts or feelings in a subtle way." Lysera reached for his hand cautiously, and the spark flared again, a bright pulse that lit the courtyard in soft hues. They stood together, feeling the energy course between them, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. "This is more than I imagined," Lysera said softly. "It is powerful. It could protect us, guide us, maybe even change the way we face threats to the palace and the city. But we must be careful. The council will not understand this, and if they learn too soon, they may see it as a danger rather than a gift." Kieran nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Then we must learn together. We must practice, understand, and discover the true potential of this bond before anyone else does." Over the next few days, they began to test the limits of the spark. Simple touches enhanced awareness. Coordinated movements allowed Kieran to move with precision beyond his natural abilities. Lysera discovered that focusing on the spark could sharpen her perception, allowing her to detect fluctuations in energy she had never noticed before. Together, they found that the bond was a form of synergy, a way for human intuition and Zitharan energy to complement one another. Yet the bond was not without risk. If overused, it left them both drained, their energy reserves temporarily weakened. Lysera realized that while the spark was a gift, it required careful control and mutual trust. They began to develop silent signals, subtle gestures, and hand touches that allowed them to communicate without words, coordinating instinctively during training and patrol exercises. One evening, during a private exercise in the palace gardens, Lysera and Kieran faced an unexpected test. A rogue energy surge from the city's outer conduits erupted nearby, threatening the palace's lower platforms. The guards were caught off guard, and chaos ensued. Lysera instinctively reached for Kieran, and the spark blazed between them. Their combined energy created a shield that redirected the surge, protecting the palace and the guards below. Lysera felt exhilaration and relief as they stood together, knowing that the bond was not only real but effective. They had faced a true challenge and discovered that together, they could do what neither could accomplish alone. That night, Lysera lay awake, reflecting on everything that had happened. The spark was no longer a mystery, it was a connection, a partnership, and a source of strength. She knew that the council would challenge it, that tradition would resist it, but she also knew that she could not ignore it. Kieran was no longer just a human guard. He was a partner, a guide, and perhaps the key to a future she had never dared to imagine. Somewhere in the palace, Kieran was awake as well, thinking the same thoughts. The bond was undeniable, a force that connected them beyond words or rules. He realized that their partnership could redefine what it meant to protect and lead, to face danger and uncertainty, and to inspire those around them. The spark had grown from a flicker to a force, guiding them, teaching them, and preparing them for challenges yet unseen. Princess Lysera and Captain Kieran had discovered the beginning of something extraordinary, a connection that could change not only their lives but perhaps the fate of Zithro itself. The palace of Zithra gleamed under the twin suns, its towers stretching into the sky, streams of energy flowing between floating gardens and ceremonial halls. Princess Lysera walked through the corridors, her mind heavy with thoughts of Kieran and the bond that had grown between them. The spark that connected them had become stronger, more responsive, and increasingly difficult to ignore. She had felt its guidance, its protection, and even its subtle influence on her decisions, yet she knew the council would not see it as a gift. Rumors were beginning to circulate among the guards. Some whispered about the glow that appeared when Lysera touched Kieran. Others speculated about the unusual precision of his leadership. The palace staff, though loyal, were curious, and curiosity often turned to concern or suspicion in a place governed by strict rules and ancient traditions. The council convened in the grand chamber, its walls shimmering with woven energy patterns that reflected the authority of Zithra's ruling elite. Elder Zorath had advised caution, warning Lysera that the council's attention would not be easily deflected. She entered the chamber with her usual poise, but inside, her thoughts raced. The spark was a source of strength, yes, but it was also a secret that could provoke fear and opposition. "Princess Lysera," began Chancellor Valen, his voice calm but sharp. "Reports have reached the council regarding unusual energy readings near the outer borders and the recent incidents involving the palace patrols. Explain your presence during these events." Lysera took a deep breath. "I accompanied the patrols to observe and ensure the safety of the guards. I noticed unusual energy surges that required careful assessment. My presence allowed the team to respond effectively and prevent damage." The council exchanged glances, skeptical but not entirely convinced. Some members frowned while others remained silent, studying her carefully. Kieran stepped forward, his posture respectful yet firm. "Chancellor," he said, "my actions were guided by duty and observation." Princess Lysera's involvement was limited, but her presence did provide a unique perspective that helped us navigate the disturbances safely. A murmur ran through the chamber. A human asserting influence in palace affairs was unheard of. Some council members shifted uneasily, their suspicion growing. "Your words suggest that this human has abilities beyond what is natural," one councillor said, his voice sharp. "Explain this, Princess. Is there a bond, an energy connection?" Lysera's heart quickened. She had feared this moment, yet she knew that honesty was necessary, though carefully measured. "There is a connection," she admitted. "A spark that responds when we touch or are near. It is powerful, yes, but it is also guided by mutual trust and cooperation. It is not a threat, It is a partnership that has proven effective in protecting our people. A tense silence followed. Some council members looked alarmed while others were intrigued. Elder Zorath stepped forward, his calm presence commanding attention. "This bond," he said, "is ancient and rare. A Zitharan soulmate spark can amplify strength, awareness, and intuition. Its appearance with a human is unprecedented, yet it is not inherently dangerous. With guidance and discipline, it can serve as a force for protection and unity." Councillor Valan's expression darkened. "This is unprecedented and potentially destabilizing. A human influencing royal decisions through such a connection could challenge the balance of power and tradition. We cannot condone this." Lysera felt the spark flare within her chest, subtle but insistent, as if reminding her that courage and conviction were necessary. She stood tall, her voice unwavering. "I will not ignore what is real." The spark has proven its value, not only in protecting the palace, but in guiding us through challenges the council could not foresee. I ask you to trust its purpose, as I have learned to trust it myself. The council members murmured among themselves, divided between fear, skepticism, and reluctant acknowledgement. The debate continued late into the day, yet no decision was reached. Lysera understood that time was her ally. The council would watch, question, and challenge, but the spark could not be denied once its effects were observed firsthand. Days passed, and the spark continued to grow in subtle ways. Lysera and Kieran practiced together in secret, refining their awareness and coordination. Simple touches allowed them to anticipate each other's movements during patrols, and they began to develop silent signals for communication. Lysera discovered that focusing on the spark enhanced her perception of the city's energy flows, allowing her to detect disturbances before they escalated. Kieran's reflexes sharpened, and his confidence grew as he realized the bond could protect both himself and those under his care. The palace, however, was not without its threats. Intelligence reports indicated that a rival faction from a neighboring system sought to exploit Zithara's perceived vulnerability. The council debated defensive strategies, but Lysera knew that their approach relied too heavily on traditional tactics. She and Kieran began planning quietly, testing the spark in simulations and small-scale patrols to prepare for potential attacks. One evening, as they observed the city from a high balcony, Lysera spoke softly. "Kieran, the spark is more than a bond. It feels alive, as if it guides us, warns us, and strengthens us. But I sense it is also testing us, preparing us for something greater." Kieran nodded. "I feel it too. When we act together, it enhances both of us. I don't fully understand it, but I trust that it is meant to help. Perhaps it will show us what we are capable of before the council or anyone else sees it." The night passed uneventfully, but the spark continued to hum softly, a constant reminder of their connection and potential. It was a quiet strength that neither had fully mastered, but both felt compelled to honor. The following day, the palace received urgent reports. Energy fluctuations near the city had intensified, and an unidentified fleet was approaching Zithara's borders. Kieran was immediately ordered to lead a defensive patrol, and Lysera, recognizing the gravity of the situation, insisted on accompanying him. The council hesitated, but Elder Zorath supported her decision, emphasizing the potential benefits of the spark in coordinating defense. As they moved toward the outer platforms, the energy currents around the city shimmered unnaturally. The approaching fleet emitted signals that interfered with normal energy flows, creating unpredictable surges. The guards were tense, and even Kieran sensed the unusual pattern in the currents. Lysera felt the spark surge within her chest, alerting her to subtle shifts in the flow and guiding her movements. When the first ships arrived, energy weapons discharged along the borders, causing minor disruptions but no direct harm. Kieran coordinated the guards with precision, his actions enhanced by Lysera's guidance. The spark flared brightly when she touched his arm, creating a moment of perfect synchronicity that allowed the guards to respond faster than the attackers anticipated. The battle was brief but intense. The bond between Lysera and Kieran proved decisive, enabling them to anticipate enemy movements, protect the city's energy conduits, and coordinate defenses that prevented serious damage. The spark acted as a bridge between intuition and energy manipulation, combining human adaptability with Zitharan precision. When the skirmish ended, the attackers retreated. Zithra had suffered minimal disruption, and the council witnessed firsthand the effectiveness of the spark. Murmurs of approval replaced whispers of skepticism, though some members remained cautious, unwilling to accept the unprecedented connection fully. Later that evening, Lysera and Kieran returned to the palace in silence. The glow of the city's energy streams reflected on their faces, soft and calming after the tension of the day. Lysera reached for Kieran's hand, and the spark flared gently, a reminder of their shared victory. "Today," she said softly, "we learned the true power of our connection. The Council has seen it, and even if they do not fully understand, they cannot deny its effectiveness." Kieran nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Yes, the spark is not just a bond, it is a force. We must continue to learn, to refine it, and to protect it. If we do, it could change the future of Zithra." Lysera looked out over the city, her heart steady with determination. "I will not ignore it. I will embrace it, and I will ensure that it is used for protection, guidance, and unity. Together, we can face whatever challenges come next." As night fell over the palace, the spark between them pulsed softly, a living reminder of trust, courage, and potential. It had survived scrutiny, secrecy, and danger, and it had grown stronger with each trial. Lysera knew that the challenges ahead would be greater. But for the first time, she felt ready to meet them, not alone, but with Kieran by her side, bound by a force greater than tradition, greater than fear, and greater than expectation. The council may have doubted, enemies may have tested, and the palace may have watched, but the spark was real, powerful, and undeniable. It was no longer a secret or a curiosity. It was a force that could guide, protect, and inspire. And together, Princess Lysera and Captain Kieran would discover its true potential. One trial, one challenge, and one spark at a time. The city of Zithra shimmered under the early morning light, streams of energy flowing like rivers between floating gardens and towers. Princess Lysera stood at the highest balcony of the palace, her eyes scanning the horizon. The spark within her chest pulsed steadily, a constant reminder of the bond she shared with Kieran. It had guided them through trials, strengthened them in the face of danger, and opened a path that neither had expected. Kieran approached quietly, his presence calming and steady. "The energy readings are stable," he said. "No signs of further disturbances near the borders." "For now, it seems the city is safe." Lysera nodded, feeling the subtle resonance of the spark in response to his words. "We have faced many challenges already," she said softly. "But I know there are more ahead. Our bond, it is stronger now. I feel it guiding us, preparing us for what comes next." He looked at her with calm determination. "Then we face it together. Whatever the council thinks, whatever the enemies plot, we will stand as one." Word of their partnership had spread through the palace. The council had observed their coordinated efforts during the skirmishes near the city borders, and even the most skeptical members could no longer deny the effectiveness of the bond. Some still hesitated to fully embrace it, fearing disruption of tradition, but the undeniable results could not be ignored. Elder Zorath entered the balcony chamber, his silver-tipped energy flowing softly around him. "Princess Lysera, Captain Kieran," he said, bowing slightly. "The council has requested your presence for a formal demonstration of the bond. They wish to understand its full potential before making decisions regarding your partnership." Lysera exchanged a glance with Kieran, feeling the spark pulse gently between them, offering reassurance. "We will comply," she said, her voice steady. "But we will show not only its power but its purpose, protection, guidance, and unity." The demonstration was held in the Grand Plaza beneath the palace towers, where energy streams intersected in a vast open space. Guards, council members, and palace officials gathered, their eyes full of curiosity and anticipation. Lysera and Kieran stepped into the center, their hands brushing lightly. Immediately, the spark flared, visible as a soft glow surrounding them both. Gasps ran through the crowd. Such energy had never been seen so vividly in the presence of a human and a princess. Lysera spoke first, her voice clear and confident. "The bond you see is not a weapon of destruction. It is a force of protection and awareness. It guides us, strengthens us, and allows us to respond to threats with precision and care. We do not rely on it for personal gain, only for the safety of our people and the city." Kieran added, "Together, we can sense dangers before they manifest, coordinate responses faster than any standard formation, and enhance the abilities of those around us." The spark is a tool of unity and strength, not of control or domination. To demonstrate, a simulation of an energy surge was triggered. Streams of unstable energy surged across the plaza, bouncing unpredictably, threatening to disrupt the formations of guards and officials. Lysera and Kieran moved instinctively, their actions perfectly coordinated. The spark flared brightly, allowing them to guide the energy away from the crowd and stabilize the plaza without harm. The demonstration ended, and silence fell over the gathered audience. The council members exchanged glances, some astonished, others thoughtful. It was clear that the bond was not only powerful but controlled, purposeful, and effective. Chancellor Valen stepped forward, his expression measured. Princess Lysera, Captain Kieran, it is evident that your partnership has proven its worth. The Council recognizes the potential of this bond, though its unprecedented nature will require careful guidance and oversight. Still, the results cannot be denied. Lysera nodded, feeling the spark pulse with quiet satisfaction. We will use it responsibly, she said, not for personal power, but for the protection and guidance of Zithra and all who dwell within it. The council deliberated further, and by the end of the day, a formal decree was issued. The bond between Princess Lysera and Kieran was recognized as a protective partnership, sanctioned for the defense of the palace and the city. It was a decision that honored tradition while acknowledging the unprecedented nature of the connection. The decree spread through Zithra, inspiring admiration and hope among the people, who saw in their princess and the human guard a model of courage, trust, and unity. In the following weeks, Lysera and Kieran continued to refine their bond. They trained together, coordinated patrols, and even assisted in energy management for the city's outer conduits. Each experience strengthened the spark, deepened their understanding, and solidified their partnership. The guards learned to anticipate their movements, the citizens grew confident in the palace's security, and the council gradually came to see the value of the spark as a tool for guidance and protection. One evening, as the sun set over Zithra, casting long shadows across the city, Lysera and Kieran stood together on the balcony of the palace. The spark pulsed softly, a gentle glow connecting them. Lysera rested her hand lightly on Kieran's arm. This bond, she said, her voice filled with calm conviction, is more than a spark. It is a promise to protect, to guide, and to face whatever comes with courage. I cannot imagine facing the future without it or without you. Kieran looked at her, the same quiet determination reflected in his eyes. Nor I without you. The spark has shown me that strength is not measured by power alone, but by trust, understanding, and unity. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts. For a long moment, they simply stood there, feeling the spark pulse between them, connecting not just their energies, but their purpose. It was a bond of courage, hope, and shared destiny, a force that had grown from a flicker of light to a steady, guiding presence. Word of their success reached neighboring systems. Ambassadors arrived, curious about Zithra's defense and the extraordinary partnership that had repelled threats with unprecedented efficiency. Lysera and Kieran hosted them, demonstrating not only the spark's abilities but its principles: cooperation, protection, and the elevation of those around them. The story of their bond spread across the galaxy, inspiring admiration and hope. Humans and Zithrans alike spoke of courage, trust, and unity, seeing in Lysera and Kieran a model of partnership that transcended species, tradition, and expectation. The spark was no longer a secret or a curiosity. It had become a symbol of what could be achieved when courage and connection were embraced. Months passed, and peace settled over Zithra. The city thrived, its energy systems stable, its guards efficient, and its people confident in their leadership. Lysera and Kieran continued their training, their bond stronger than ever. Each trial they faced only deepened their understanding, revealing new layers of coordination, awareness, and empathy. One morning, as the energy streams of the city shimmered with a rainbow of colors, Lysera and Kieran stood together in the palace gardens. A group of young guards in training practiced nearby, their movements carefully guided by the lessons learned from the spark. Lysera watched them with quiet pride, feeling the resonance of the spark as it pulsed within her chest. Kieran, she said softly, look at them. They will grow to protect Zithra just as we have, guided by what we've learned. The spark, it is not only our bond, but a legacy we can leave for others. He smiled, resting a hand lightly on hers. Yes. And they will understand that strength comes not from dominance, but from trust, unity, and courage. That is the true power of the spark. As they walked through the gardens, the spark pulsing gently between them, Lysera realized that their journey had only just begun. The bond was not just a tool for protection. It was a connection that could inspire hope, foster unity, and redefine what it meant to lead. The palace, the city, and even the galaxy had witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary. Princess Lysera and Captain Kieran had faced danger, defied expectation, and embraced the unknown together. Their spark had grown from a fleeting flicker into a radiant force of awareness, courage, and partnership. And as the twin suns set behind the floating towers of Zithera, the city bathed in a gentle glow, Lysera and Kieran stood side by side, ready to face the future together. The spark that had begun with a single touch had become a guiding light for them, their people, and the generations to come. A testament to courage, unity, and the extraordinary potential of trust between beings from different worlds. In that moment, they understood the truth Elder Zorath had spoken long ago, that a bond forged through trust and courage could transcend species, challenge tradition, and inspire an entire civilization. The spark was no longer just between them. It was a symbol, a force, and a promise of hope that would endure, lighting the path forward for Zithera and beyond. Princess Lysera smiled at Kieran, her heart steady and full. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Kieran returned her smile, the spark between them pulsing in quiet harmony. Together, he agreed. The palace stood tall, the city safe, and the spark burned bright, a living testament to courage, unity, and the extraordinary power of connection. And in that glow, both human and Zitheran could see the future clearly, filled with hope, strength, and the promise of endless possibilities.